I just ran the futures, the 1 minute, in a pretty steady downtrend.
Yeah, you know, I think a lot of people front ran the. I think a lot of people front ran the CME Open.
Yeah,
I mean,
we had a move up, and then the move down was a lot of it was just premium compression. I think it was like $1,000 or $700 higher than spot, and then by now it's like $200 over spot.
yeah, I think you know that 20,000 mark is going to be very psychological. So I think we're going to bump on it. But I mean, look at the the
Actually,
tech on it. You know, I mean, it looks beautiful. It's gliding up on that linear regression line. So I mean,
yeah,
you know, if they had juice, they would have jammed this thing down below that they would have jammed it below the breakout of that ascending triangle again. There's no juice. I think people just front ran it yesterday to get in front of the CME. You know.
well, I definitely, yeah. I mean, this is a very controlled descent here, but Asia's opening up right about now.
Yeah.
So if they're gonna do what they do, we're gonna start seeing some big green candles here pretty quick.
Yeah, you'll see your GDAX, your famous GDAX wall.
Yeah, GDAX, where is that?
Yeah, in fact, we're getting a green. I like to watch it on the 15-minute. We're getting a nice green bounce right now. I mean, they basically be selling it from the open, you know. So I just think people took profit from yesterday.
Yeah, we're starting to see, well, right at 18,500. There's not really a wall there because the price has been just slapping around. But yeah, here comes the buyers.
Yeah.
Asia's waking up.
You know, I mean, we don't want parabolic moves every day either. I mean, I just love a slow grind to just put people out of their misery. You know, these big spikes always, you know, people try to, you know, profit from them. I just want a slow misery of death for these people that are shorting it.
There's going to be a gap, I believe, from Friday for. Well, actually, we can look at that. Look at the gap.
They're gonna try to fill it.
So this is the CME, that's slash BTC for anybody who's looking at charting it, and then XBT is the CBOE future. So yeah, huge gap. See that? Monster gap.
And that's natural for people who don't trade a lot and are just really, really trying to learn what's going on here. Is that gaps like to get filled, and now that we have market makers involved in some of this stuff, and even there's market makers even at these exchanges now, you know, now that if there's a futures market in here, there's always a tendency to try to fill gaps, and so don't let that you know freak you out. It's just kind of a natural part of the maturation process of this asset going mainstream.
Yeah, we haven't seen this before either. So if you didn't see this, then you'd be like, oh, you know, just the futures are kind of tanking if you're just looking at the other ones. But this is pretty obvious. This is what we, like Bob was saying, very common to see when you have, but you're going to see it more often than not on Bitcoin because the market never stops, whereas other markets will close with the futures markets. Bitcoin just keeps on jamming. So it's interesting because we haven't seen a gap before on Bitcoin or any derivatives of it. So this is actually pretty cool to see because then it kind of helps us. And of course, we're going to need more time and data, but we will be able to establish if we do have a large gap up, does the futures tend to dictate the underlying price action as far as closing those gaps? And if that does become a thing, that's something that you can trade upon.
Yeah, and in fact, a lot of people, their whole trading philosophy is trading that first hour and trading against those gaps in all the futures markets. So I wouldn't be surprised that people are starting to establish their bona fides, you know, in these trying to find, try to carve out their territory of trading. And these people will go away after the first hour. So, but yeah, I don't know. Looks good to me. I mean, in the money flow, Phil is turning back up again. So, I mean, the up volume is still higher than the down volume. So, it looks constructive to me. I don't see anything in here to be worried about at all.
No. And if we go to, this is kind of the magic channel. So you can see we just blew right out of it over the weekend. And now we're getting back inside of it. So this will adjust, though, based on this. Anyway, go back to...
Yeah, and speaking of gaps here, while you're getting that ready, is that, another Sunday gap up on natural gas, and it's actually constructive, but, there's a sell wall. Everybody knows it. Now this is becoming like personal for me almost, that with this this seller that's been pretty persistent is, basically they've eaten through that seller. We're coming back up again where people have been buying back these big sell-offs, and so right now we have to crack over $2.73, and you'll see natural gas flying too. So I'm watching that while I'm watching the cryptos. I'm 2 out of 3. The cryptos are up for the weekend and natural gas is, but my Steelers lost, so I'm a little bummed out.
Well, that's why you diversify over 2 equity markets and a sport.
Yeah, I know, it's too funny. So hope I didn't blow anybody's recordings, but I figured I waited pretty long here to share that.
What's going on, guys? Somebody asked, is keeping the buy position on BTC still logic? Yeah, it is. I mean, look, whenever futures opens, it's always chaotic. And you really need to give this thing like 24 hours to shake out. We have basically, this is a small fib target, so that's, or a buy zone, I should say. So that got basically taken out. The smaller fib zones aren't as powerful as the bigger ones. And then this particular one, actually, we would adjust it to take into account the new high. And so we'd be looking for that to hold. So we'll make this the new high. And let me transition this over to this chart so you guys can see what's going on. And okay, so here's this up here is the new high, guys. So we've just moved down through a smaller fib zone, and now we're heading toward this 17,800 level. And that's going to be a spot where technically you'd be looking to get long. Also, it's another previous top area, so now it becomes support. So I'm kind of curious to see what we do over here at this this level at 17,800. We are getting recharging on the 4-hour with the technicals. And if we see this here on the RSI, if we get below this shaded area, that's a very bullish setup. Typically when it dips low like that, last time we saw that was in this area here. And let me look at the big run up. That was huge. That was back in the 5,000-6,000 range. So those are pretty powerful when they set up, when they dip down that low. Volume wise, this move isn't really doing anything real earth shattering compared to, like, when you start looking at the volume, you're gonna see, like, when I look for volume that, like up in this area here, so along this level. And to me, if we're not seeing that really, then it's really not a whole lot of serious selling going on here. This could just be a lot of people just kind of letting price do its things. Buyers aren't really stepping in. However, there are going to be price levels that buyers are probably waiting at. And sometimes you can see that on the GDAX sell wall or buy walls. So you can go here, zoom out. If you zoom out big picture wise, there is more buy pressure overall. The sell pressure has, or the sell supply has actually improved. It used to be very lopsided, but that isn't the case so much anymore. That could be the exchanges just doing a better job of supply.
Sorry about that.
But you can see where we start stacking up onto size. So they're waiting. Buyers are waiting at like around 18,000. It looks like in size. So if you look at that based on the chart, that's in this area. So that makes sense to me. If we look on the 15 minute, 15 minutes going to look worse because it's more of a granular view. But basically you just have a waterfall here. Now price is bouncing pretty hard. We may see some very gigantic price moves during the Asia session, which that's just what Bitcoin does. But again, don't freak out over what we see in the next few hours. It's just going to be volatile, just like it was when the COB opened. It was very volatile for the first couple hours, kind of quieted off, and then we just had a pretty positive week, about a 30% gain last week. So technically speaking, guys, I'd be looking for this level of 19,181. If I saw price break above that, then I would say the bulls are kind of back in control technically, and then we'd start looking for price structure to start building off of that. So I'm not seeing anything too crazy. Nothing like, oh my God, we're tanking. Like I said, the 4-hour volume really isn't. There isn't a whole lot there yet that I see that's going to be telling me this is massive selling starting.
Yeah, I mean, we're $1,000, almost $2,000 over Friday. You know, the Friday close of the regular trading hours of the regular market. So that's pretty good weekend action here. So I equate it to people front running the move here and taking profit into the move.
Yeah, basically. I mean, if you look at, we basically broke out of that triangle, and I think if you met technically a measured move of that triangle is about $7,000 higher. So
Yep.
So this would be the start of that move up, and so we could just keep doing this for the rest of the week. That would be like completely normal.
And you always test the breakout. So far the test looks successful.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, that's right. You should expect to see a pullback to this breakout level. And so what we're looking at, guys, is when we say triangle. Let me get a triangle up here. Where's my triangle? I don't know where my triangle went.
It's there.
I was going to draw one, but I can't find it.
Yeah, well,
there we go.
That triangle's 23 to 25K, so there we go. I see it.
So you're looking, when you break out of, this is just kind of not perfect, guys, but when you break out of like the shaded area, that's what we call an ascending triangle, and that's bullish. And so when you break out of that, you're going to test this level that it broke out from. So you're going to have this dip like we're seeing now. This may not be over. This dip may come back down all the way to this level, and then we'll come back up.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to show you guys.
Yeah. Hey, Troy, I think you're probably a little spoiled. You don't want constant parabolic moves. Those are the moves that collapse. What you want is a move, consolidation, a move, consolidation, a move. So, part of this, the hardest part of trading is patience. And a lot of people that trade that have bigger stacks than you are hoping that you get impatient, and then they'll make a move on you when you say, I'm done with this, it's not moving anymore. You go trade something else, and then the thing rockets up on you 30% again and makes you chase, and they profit from your chasing, and then you get frustrated and you hop off again because you're like, I didn't make any money. So, this is expected. This move in Bitcoin there's nothing here that's bearish about this move. I mean, moving averages are moving up, linear regression lines are moving up, the channel's moving up, the money flow is moving up. You just can't go at a 500% a quarter pace, infinitely. So I just need to just get your expectations, correct. What we have in our favor is we have corrupt, counterfeit fiat systems that are collapsing around the world, and they're collapsing behind the scenes, and we're seeing the reflection of that in the cryptocurrencies. And Bitcoin's the king. Everything, as time moves on, because as features and capabilities attach to Bitcoin, companies don't have to do multiple different coins to achieve what their strategic purposes, their payment systems, or their stored value systems are. So this is normal. This looks really normal.
Yeah, no, it does. And basically, what I wanted to point out to Troy is that when you have a move like this, like Bob was saying, you don't want constant parabolic moves. So basically, this was a blow off top, and that's very classic when you hit a parabolic type velocity. Big wick. This move literally, I mean, we went several $100s in minutes. Part of that was because I think the supply on GDAX got exhausted, and then we had a bunch of selling come in because this move went a lot higher than other exchanges. But that was a very classical blow off move. Then you pulled back, and then we because what we did is we're in this really steep, I know it doesn't look like it here on this scale, but this price channel is very steep relative to previous price action. So you can see there, we were in this lower price channel for a long time, and then we kind of broke out of that, which we were kind of anticipating, and now we're in this really aggressive price channel. So if you look at it in terms of this, and we just made a new high, we're still kind of like following that parabolic move. And if you look at it on our parabolic chart, so this is a parabolic chart, what I call a parabolic chart. Basically what it is you're taking moves, parabolic moves typically arc up into a straight up and down move. And so you can see we just printed a new weekly candle, but we're still definitely within that parabolic corridor, if you will. And actually, this 24,000 mark was basically where we would hit our head on the parabolic curve. Now we hit it last week on that blow off exactly into that, a little bit higher than the curve slightly, but right into it. So you can see how price hits those velocity curves and then reacts. And that's just kind of the neat thing about parabolic moves and markets and human beings, is they kind of follow this trend, and you can map it out like this. So now this week, because of the price action, we're actually looking at, if you were talking about blow off top targets, you're looking at close to 40,000. If we hit that this week, that would definitely be a blow off top, and I would look for probably a considerable pullback, maybe up to 30%, and maybe take a week to consolidate. But that would be, I mean, still a move off of that level, that would be like another 100% move in a week. Bitcoin is capable of doing that, but that's what starts to transpire when we start getting into these types of moves. So for me, I'm looking at how we're reacting into this price corridor here. One thing about Bitcoin is that it's just going to do some crazy stuff that no one's ever seen before. And it's kind of just done that ever since its inception. I mean, it's basically done the impossible. So I expect it to keep doing impossible things relative to what we're used to as far as equity markets and price action.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, is that when you have big moves like Phil's showing, is that it's normal, it's mathematical. One thing about Bitcoin, that when Phil and I started talking about Bitcoin on a regular basis. You know, Phil made a statement to me. He said, "Bob, this is the most mathematical trading I've ever done." And so when you have big moves that come up, you're able to draw a support and resistance area, and you can expect 1/3 to even a 2/3 retracement, and it's still considered bullish, because you have to allow people to take profit and yet still maintain a bull move. And now that you have institutional money coming in, those guys aren't as committed to the cause that a lot of us are. So to them, it's just simply an asset and a transaction for them. So you're going to start seeing moves that are going to go up to a resistance area, or it's going to come out of the channel, or it's going to come out of the parabolic angle chart that Phil puts up, and it's going to retrace 1/3 and 2/3. And what they're counting on is taking your money from you, because you're going to say, "Oh my gosh, it's all over." And all those guys are doing, they're taking profit and they're buying lower, and they ride it up to the next wave. They panic people out, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Look, these guys are some of the smartest people in the world. They've been begging to get into this business and own cryptocurrencies for a long time. And they know this is the only thing that's going to help save their clients' portfolio values when you start getting these unruly currency collapses. You know, I was talking to somebody earlier today, and they just said, "Bob, is Bitcoin a bubble?" And I said, "Well, the people of Venezuela certainly do not think so. The people in Zimbabwe certainly do not think so. The Japanese prime minister is telling their people to buy cryptocurrencies. There's a reason for that. They know they're doomed mathematically. They cannot unwind their debt, and they know their banking systems are going to go bust. So smart people are hopping off the bus, and they're preserving some of their wealth into these cryptocurrencies, and you know that's why we're so excited about it. We see this, and they can't stop it. This is simply a math function at this point, and the fiat currencies are going to get jubileed away, which means they're going to forgive this debt, they're going to wipe it away, or they're going to simply just keep counterfeiting it away until they pay it off with worthless dollars, yen, euros, whatever. So just expect these moves, and it's just going to jump around like this. And we have a lot of new people, and that's how we're explaining this. You know, we went every quarter, didn't the truth, Phil? Every quarter for the last 2 years, they had 30% moves in Bitcoin. Didn't phase the people who were in it because they understood it. So that's just kind of my monologue on that. It's just enjoy the ride and understand, you know, what you're dealing with here. And it's hilarious. We're talking about a coin that's up another 10% over the weekend. So it's not like it's down, you know. I think people just got pretty spoiled. Good. Can you guys hear me okay? Do I lose sound?
You just have to do the driving. I'll take care of the rest. Genius. Nigel, you're such an amazing individual. Well done. Well done. Now fix that up.
Hey, Phil, I think I lost you.
Sorry.
That's okay. I guess I was so profound that you were speechless.
No, my audio was off. Sorry. What I wanted to do is show you guys, like, we can look at the past pullbacks. Let me get on a log scale here. But you could look at, let's do this. Anytime you see any kind of significant weekly pullback. Okay, so there was a 38% pullback. Not really a big deal, and on the weekly chart doesn't really mean much. And that's what I mean. You guys gotta have to, like, when you guys are looking at, like, oh, should I stay long or short or whatever, you gotta really look at, like, well, what time frame are you looking at? There's a 37% pullback. There's a 34% pullback. There's a 41% pullback. We're just getting into 2017. What else we got? I'm just looking for anything significant that shows up on the weekly chart. This is a 40% pullback. This pullback lasted like a week. That's 30%. So what you can kind of see is that we consistently were getting 30 to 40% pullbacks. In fact, I can even map these out here. Now this is a log chart, so the scaling is going to make it so that these big moves look a little more even. So, here you can see a lot of times big weekly pullbacks, and they used to take a lot longer. Now they don't take as long. Basically we're looking at 30 to 40% is pretty normal. But you look at the trajectory though that we're on. That's just a really healthy bull market. So even though when you're in the midst of a pullback and it feels like the world's ending, historically a 30 to 40% pullback has been normal. Now that's just from 2015, which is kind of like the more recent. You could go back to, I think, back as far as like 2012. I think on some other charts, different indexes, but those will be, you'll have some very wild price swings. But I think if you look back from the Coinbase era, this is what's been pretty typical now, and that's taking into account higher volume too. That as Bitcoin got more popular. But now we're starting to see, when you start to, now here's where I go back to like this parabolic move. Now you think that, well, we're kind of, we're not seeing the big price jumps that we saw last couple weeks, but in reality we are still going into that parabolic arc. But what you'll see, and what's telling to me on this last move is it lasted like about less than a week, and it was only a 30% move. So now what you're going to want to see is the pullbacks continue to be short, like a few days in duration, and looking at like the 20 to 30% range, and then maybe the 10 to 20% range, all the while the pullback durations shrink until you get one really big blow off move. Now if we do that, that's not really a big deal, because I think the way Bitcoin is, and because of the supply, the finite supply that we're dealing with, which is extremely unusual, is that you're going to probably see a series of these types of moves. So don't freak out if we have a big blow off. Say we rocket to 40,000 in a fairly short period of time, and then it pulls back significantly, like 40 or 50%, because I would expect a larger pullback after that type of blow off move. Just keep that in mind. But again, you have to think about what time frame you guys are dealing with. And if it's if you're a hodler, then you're fine. You're just going to keep holding. That's going to be perfectly normal price action. If you're looking for a shorter period swing targets, then that's a whole different animal. And when you do get into a blow off top, you're going to probably get wiped out pretty quick on your stops. So you might just want to stand down and let price stabilize after that.
Yeah, and I'm a long swing trader on cryptos, and where all systems go. I mean, that ledge at 16,770, 16,800 Phil, is that's rock solid, and so I wouldn't even consider anything above that level as anything other than just normal price action. And you got to realize too is that you got Asia rolling in, and then after Asia rolls in, Europeans are going to roll in, and so we're going to just get a constant stream of money coming into this. This is just first mover action, and we're still above where we were this morning. So I mean it's pretty funny.
Yeah, and also too, if you really stand back and look at from 30,000 feet, this is the current price fork. Price fork just takes 3 points and then projects a trajectory. And what's bananas is that this price trajectory, which it's already starting to, I've had to revise this like 4 times in the last, I would say 2 weeks or 2 months, and now we've had to move it again. Or it's looking like we may have to revise it up. We'll see. But what we might end up seeing is this might act as more like a median, but what you'll see is these spikes up. Like for example, you'll have like these big spikes up, and then it pulls back down like that, and kind of goes up, and then you might have another blow off like that, and then it comes back down. And those are the spots where you're going to see like the most volatility. And that's, I'm just kind of projecting out there, but that would be a series of blow off moves like that. So,
yeah, what I find more interesting is that it looks like Stellar's taking business away from Ethereum. I think there's more interesting action happening at the second and third levels, and Bitcoin's just going to keep grinding higher. So I was really amazed at how strong Stellar's been doing here of late, Phil.
Yeah, we can take a look at that. Stellar. So yeah, this is pretty, Stellar, obviously with a lot of these alts that have volume and are on the established exchanges, you're going to see some pretty good sized moves. This obviously is putting in what we kind of would call a scallop bottom, and but that's that's a valid bottom that it's putting in. So scallop bottoms are just these kind of rounded moves, same vice versa on a top. So basically what you're looking now, the big area to bust through would be this big bear fib zone up here, and then you really want to see it maintain this trend line. So you got a pretty steep trend line here, but you basically would be looking for strength off of this type of trajectory.
Yeah,
and then what you're gonna do is you're also gonna look for pullbacks. And so, like, if you're gonna try to establish a long position in this thing, here's your technical levels. You got one there, and you probably just take one from the bottom. So if you get a pullback, this would fall in line with the trend line, kind of. If you got to pull back into this area between 1100, 10 and 1100, and that would continue higher. It appears now that we are seeing probably some money rotate back into the alt markets. All the fork drama's over, and that was forcing people out of alts to protect their positions in Bitcoin because they weren't sure what was going on, and that was completely valid and made a lot of sense. Now I think we're seeing a couple things. One is people are looking at Bitcoin and thinking it's too expensive, even though in reality it's probably going to be hard to keep up with. So most people will look at it and say, I'd rather own 100 Litecoin versus 0.01 Bitcoin. But in reality, you would actually be better off holding the fraction of a Bitcoin because it would grow faster. Now, there are alts that are currently way oversold that will see spurts of growth against Bitcoin in percentage terms. So there's definitely opportunities out there to swing. In fact, they're going to be all over the place now, it looks like. But as far as longevity against Bitcoin, it's going to be hard to say, well, any particular one is going to be a buy and hold, against it for, say, the next year. But I think we will see. I think we'll get to a point where you can buy and hold some of these over a longer period. But I think it's an altcoin swing market is what we're starting to see develop here going into next year.
Yeah, I think it's a big mistake people make too, is that people see a lower price and they think it's cheaper than something that's a higher price. And it's a logical fallacy. And really all you ever care about is percent growth in your portfolio. And we talked about this last week. If you guys have been on there before, you have what's called the gorilla advantage, and Phil knows when I started talking this too. I said, "Oh, hey Phil, I'm just going to do Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin. I'm going to mix it up." And then as I became more and more educated on cryptocurrencies, I'm like, "Hey, look, all these developers are flocking to Bitcoin, and all the companies that are going to be creating stored value or creating payment systems." They're not going to want to have 3 or 4 different coins or 10 different coins or 100 different coins to have to write standards against. They're going to go with the gorilla. And you see it in everything in the marketplace today. There's one Facebook for a reason. There's one Google for a reason. There's one Microsoft for a reason. And they control the standards. And so you see it now. People are saying, well, once Bitcoin gets a really solid payment system that can connect to it at low cost transaction, and you're holding the Bitcoin as stored value, what do you need a Litecoin for? And then Ethereum is now starting to struggle against some of these other coins with Stellar and somebody NXT and some of these other guys that are creating systems that are more robust. And people are going to say, you know what, I'm not going to screw around with anybody else. I'm going to write all my applications to Bitcoin. I'm going to set my standards to Bitcoin. And then people will chase something. Oh, it's only 22 cents. I'll buy 1,000 shares. I'll take a flyer on it. And they wake up next morning like, why is this coin delisted? And so that's my encouragement to you is this is no different. This is human nature. Is these altcoins are being chased right now. A lot of them are not going to make it, and they're really going after an opportunity here because Bitcoin has futures against it. Saying, hey, I'll just run these guys up. We get to be really, really careful, really understand the use case, and making sure that these guys have long-term advantages over something like Bitcoin. And I'm not just a Bitcoin apologist. I'm coming to see more and more how they're adding capabilities into Bitcoin into the future, and how they're going to use Bitcoin as really the store value. And it's good to be the king, so might as well own the king.
Yeah. You have to think, too, that if you're going to see different technology built upon the Bitcoin blockchain, you're going to be, it kind of goes back to the market kind of follows the economy. And so, like, you have Rootstock, for example. That's essentially written in the same code as Ethereum. And so you have the ability now, it remains to be seen. They're releasing they have beta of it out now, and that needs to get out, and we can see real world performance. But if it scales better than Ethereum, you could see projects slide over from the Ethereum blockchain to the Rootstock sidechain. So I'm throwing out possibilities, guys. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, and maybe Ethereum gets the scaling part of what's going on down better, because right now, like with the CryptoKitty thing, they're just the transaction times have been really bogged down, and so that was being a problem for people that were looking at Ethereum as being a very quick transacting interface. Again, I think everything goes through growing pains, and Ethereum might just get past this and it'll be just fine. But I think competition's good. But I do think you have to basically say, look, if there's a huge economy on the Bitcoin blockchain, which there is, it's the biggest by far, and you're adding these feature sets to it, it's going to make it hard for competing blockchains to, gain traction. Now, Ethereum has a lot of traction. They have a lot of corporate support. So they have a good foothold. I don't think they're going to go away overnight by any means. But if you have some like Bob was saying, if you have single-use tokens, say, for example, like for confidential type or private transactions, that's coming to Bitcoin and Litecoin. They have confidential transactions coming. So that would, now you have to look at something like Monero, which that's their claim to fame. Is that going to be something that they, is that going to take off? If you can just do the same functionality on Bitcoin, do you need Monero? And so that's some of the things you just need to think about when you are vested. If you're like thinking long term, that's all we're talking about in some of these coins. That's some of the stuff that you need to just keep in check. So
yeah, and we're not advocating one thing or another. I mean, our goal, as Phil and I talk every Sunday here, is really just kind of to get you thinking, and there's a lot of really good sales going on right now in terms of people talking the future here, and it's great to listen to all that, and some of these may really run out and run, but you just have to understand that Bitcoin is not sitting still, and that people are gonna operate closer and closer to fewer coins going into the future, and you just need to make sure that you understand the coins that you're picking are going to be a winner versus something that's going to become obsolete. And I came from this industry. We corralled up and we bought up companies that have had single-use opportunities and put them on our platform, and the people that didn't get bought up went out of business. And so with the cryptocurrencies, it's different. They're not going to buy Monero to put it on the Bitcoin. They're just going to create the technology that's required to make them obsolete. And I'm not saying Monero is going to be obsolete. I'm just saying that's an example. So those are the kind of things that you're going to. That's 2018. I think it's going to be a really fascinating year as this adoption rolls out, because we've gone from, as somebody put it, trading sardines. We're going to start eating the sardines, and and people are going to start actually putting these coins to work in 2018, and that's when the world is going to just wake up, and these coins are going to fly, and the winners are going to win, and the losers are going to go out of business.
Yeah, there's again, this is just stuff to chew on. There's 800, or actually there's more than that now. There's probably over 1,000 different coins. So I'm going to tell you right now, 98% of them, if not more, are not going to make it past, you know, a couple years. Or if they do, they're not going to be doing much volume. Basically what will happen is the volume dies off, the exchanges will delist them, and then that's pretty much the end of it. The nodes die off. There's no reason, there's no economy around it. There's no incentive to keep the network active. So you're going to probably see that in mass. But what I'm looking at for 2018 is like Bob said, what's going to gain traction and what's going to find economy. And so I'm pretty excited for 2018. You know, it's not going to be just all about Bitcoin, but it'll be interesting to see what does the economy attract, what tech gets traction. So pretty exciting for the whole crypto space this upcoming 2018.
Yeah, and I think the legacy world, there's going to be some tremendous opportunities too. You know, Phil and I were talking going into 2018 to talk about some of the companies that are going to be publicly traded that I think you're going to see some, and you see it last year. You know, you saw it with Nvidia. You know, you saw it with Square. You know, you're seeing it with Riot. You know, you're seeing it with DPW. There's going to be more and more public companies that are going to, you know, because, you know, you understand we have the coin, but we have the blockchain. And the blockchain is going to provide opportunity for us to actually trade equities along with coins. So there's going to be a lot of twofers out there where you know, you can make a lot of money. And if you catch the right stock with options, you know, you're making crypto-like returns that you've been seeing here with the crypto world in the last 90 days. So, you know, we have a lot to talk about and a lot to help you guys with as we unfold this. I think Phil calls this Internet 3.0. You know, we're kind of like 1994. You know, we have probably a good 6 or 7 year run here as this technology, you know, matures into the mainstream.
Yeah, absolutely. I noticed you guys were talking about the fact that Litecoin went up more than Bitcoin this year. And if you start from the beginning of the year, that's absolutely true. But what happened was, and we got to look at this in Litecoin, Bitcoin terms. You got to figure a lot of people got in Litecoin and Bitcoin back in April. So let me go to a wider time frame here. So it kind of depends on what time frame you're looking at, because if you look at it from the standpoint of, let's just say everything started rocking, so you got into Litecoin up in here. Let's just say you got in somewhere in here at like 0.007 or something like that. So, you know, you can measure that, and I believe a lot of people did. You know, you measure to where you are today, so you're at 129.8%. So now, you know, now I think that this is like an example of what people will be looking at. You know, if you're from here to here in dollar terms, you're up huge. But now if you look if you took that same time period in Bitcoin from April till now, so you have 130% from there, kind of when all this stuff started gaining a lot of exposure, and a lot of people are probably in from those levels. But then you look at Bitcoin from that time period, and you are looking at, let's look at the daily, because I think this is the time period which you would look at to kind of represent kind of the current mode that we're in as far as you know, price and stuff like that. So if we were to measure that same kind of time period till like now, you're at a 1,500% increase. So, you know what I mean, guys? That's when you look at it from different perspectives, there's a huge difference there. So yeah, you're right. If you were in it from Litecoin from January, then yeah, you're up big over Bitcoin. But comparatively from the time frame of when cryptos really started waking up in April, and you can see that on the volume, there's like just much more volume from April on. Bitcoin has just taken off. So if you were holding from that time period, now you're down a lot in Bitcoin. Now, a lot of that's recovering right now, but a majority of the people were not holding Litecoin and Ethereum at the beginning of the year, and so a lot of people could be, you know, upside down. And if that's the case, a lot of them will try to get out when things are breaking even. So that is, and as far as Bitcoin terms go, you know, if you're looking at it in Bitcoin terms, and I think you have to, because you have to be measuring against the big dog and who's having the most explosive growth. So to me, it's like, you can look at it in dollar terms, but if you're not outpacing Bitcoin, then the argument is you're better off just sitting in Bitcoin. So, but there's going to be lots of opportunities to get nice swings against Bitcoin, and Litecoin is showing us a perfect example of that here, you know, just in this last week. And so, you know, that's a 300 or 274% move against Bitcoin. That's excellent, excellent, excellent. Now you had to kind of like, you know, where do you know, this is a downtrend basically that popped out of, you know, those are a little bit harder to time, but that's where you kind of have to look at price action to give you a hint. And when you see a big move up like that, then you're going to look for a pullback and get in it. So, but like, that's just an example. You're not going to get this full move. You just want to get chunks of it. You want to get like the meat of it, like here to here stuff, and get that. But when they're moving like this, and we're starting to see that across the whole space, then we're going to have a lot more opportunities to signal out swing trades. We weren't, just because of the dynamic of alt bear market, so we were kind of like, you know, consolidate back into Bitcoin and wait. Now we're getting out of that. So kind of, like I said, pretty exciting for 2018. We're going to see a lot of opportunities to make, basically grow your stash in Bitcoin terms.
Yeah, and for those, you know, kind of watching the action right now, you know, I did a quick fib chart, you know, from the, you know, the low at, you know, 15,720 area to the highs of today, and we're still only retracing less than 1/3 of the move, and money flow has basically reset itself, and to me that's pretty bullish. You know, somebody said, well, where would I buy today? Well, you know, anything above 17.3 would probably be a good place to enter. There's a good ledge. It's a 2/3 retrace of the move from earlier, end of last week, and you know, it's still bullish in my view. But hey, you know, one thing too is, if I don't mind, if Phil, if we could, the last 15 minutes here, you know, a lot of people ask us what we do at Trade Genius. You know, this is not just Phil and I just getting together and just talking and, you know, just having a good time because we both like cryptos. But, you know, Phil and I created a business that, you know, we call, you know, Trade Genius, and the name of the company is TradeGeniusAcademy.com. And we have it kind of bisected in two sections. You know, we have a crypto section, and then we have a section that some stocks. We call it ETF, but really stocks and options and futures. And Phil runs the crypto room, and also Phil is expert in binary options. And both cryptos and binaries behave very well mathematically. And Phil has some really great algorithms that he put together in terms of for price movement and action. And so what we've done is, you know, we've created two trading rooms, one for trading stocks, one for trading cryptocurrencies. You can join either room, and one for actually trade signals themselves. So Phil and I will call out in our respective rooms, you know, if we see an opportunity to buy. Like right now, we see some opportunities with biotech and with energy and with miners. You know, I'm calling those trades out. Phil's doing the same thing on the crypto side. He's not just sitting there talking about Bitcoin. If he sees other opportunities or a new coin, he's calling out trade signals for that. And then in addition to that, what we did was, if you guys know, we talked about on the future side, we created what's called the day trading money machine, where we actually put software on Thinkorswim to help people day trade the future, mostly in the energy sector and even gold, because the volatility is there, but also on the crypto side to help people with long swings. And the reason why we did that is you know, we're not just bull-tards. We're saying, you know, crypto's to the moon forever. You know, why sit in a trade if we think there's a good chance there's a 30% correction coming down? Hey, you know, you want to hodl some of it, but you may want to take some off the table and then bring your average down even lower. well, we have buy and exit signals for that too. And we put that out there, and a lot of people have taken advantage of it through our recent holiday specials. And then in addition to that was we sat down and said, instead of answering the same questions over and over again, we decided to create a series of courses and tips and tricks for futures, for trading stocks, to even understanding this whole new philosophy around the money, the new money, the cryptocurrency blockchain space, and even how do we trade it. So we just want you to be able to take advantage of if you want to and join us. I know a lot of people have in the last 2 to 3 months, because people are understanding this is the future, and so we created this entire ecosystem around it, and both of us have been trading for a long time. Me since 1991. And Phil in the 90s as well. In fact, we met trading and we became friends, and we said, hey, we should put something together here. There's not a lot of people doing what we do, and help people become better at trading. And so we created TradeGeniusAcademy.com, and if you're interested, we'd love for you to join us. I think you really like what we do, and we run specials from time to time, and we offer people opportunities to join us with some really good deals. And so I just wanted to share that with you, because people always ask you, what do you guys really do? Do you guys just run a YouTube channel? And the answer is we do a lot more than that. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I mean, like Bob was saying, we do a lot. The binary options, for example, a lot of people don't know that we do that, but we do. In fact, some people just, that's all they subscribe to. And we send out those signals. But those are they're about 63 and 3 currently on that signal that we do, which is a thing about binary options. You can start at a very inexpensive price, or should I say, you can start off with small capital, and we can build it up. So you could open a Nadex account for like $200, and we can build it up. The trick is finding high probability entries that you can take advantage of premium. What we identify as premium mispricing. And so you grab those, and when you are able to do 95% probability or 95% wins, then you can take trades that have larger risk, but you're capturing. So you're capturing a small premium. You're risking more than what you're trying to capture, but mathematically it works out because of the high probability of the win based on what we do. So basically, what we did, we took a lot of data and created basically an algorithm matrix that tells us what the probabilities are that a particular contract, these are true false contracts, so they either win or they lose, and they it tells us what the probability is that they'll win. Then we'll look at that against a price chart, and if the price chart is looking like there's support or supports that position, then we'll take the signal. So that's just one of the things that we do in the room. A lot of it is just discussing current price action. Guys will ask to analyze a chart. We'll analyze whatever you want. We have a really good community in there. A lot of veteran traders are in there, and so it's cryptos. If you're new to cryptos, you might look at doing the courses just to get your feet wet and kind of wrapping your head around the whole thing. But a lot of people they're new to crypto. They're even new to trading. So we kind of just hold. It's kind of a hand holding thing when you're in there, and you can ask away. And room's always open. So that's what I do on the crypto side, and Bob on the ETF side is the same way, but they're focusing on more traditional equities and ETFs and things like that.
Yeah, and we put together the same philosophy. We look at money flow. There's only really two things that drive, the price of an equity. It's really it's volume and its direction. And so we look at up volume, down volume, money flow, and support and resistance areas, and deviations from what we call home base. And so we look for those where it stretches beyond that and money's starting to come back in, and we call ourselves being seagulls and try to catch that move, with the whales, and then hop off and look for the other trade. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. We don't want to give you a commercial every time we talk, but a lot of people have been asking us what we do, and we have a lot of people who've been watching us here of late, and that's what we do, and it works out really well for everybody. So TradeGeniusAcademy.com is our name, making money for you and for us is our game. So anyway, do you guys have any other questions for us? If not, we're bumping up against the hour, Phil.
Troy, you asked what the year-to-date return on that algorithm was for our Nadex Forex algorithm. It's right at about $860 per contract traded. So that's year-to-date. Praveen, you asked, can we discuss the correction? This is more of a pullback. On the 15-minute chart, it looks like a correction, but it's really just a pullback. You basically what's happening here is, so futures open, we had a lot, as typical, we had a lot of volatility because of that, and so this is just a pullback. Anything in this range here, I mean, if you look at it from a percentage perspective so far, it's not, this is 8% from top to bottom. That's really nothing in Bitcoin. So I wouldn't, if we break down out of this channel and we break this bull fib area, so from 17,800 down to 17,300, let's say, if we break out of that area down and then we start heading down into here, that to me, now we're in a correction. But we'll see what happens with Asia here. There is an attempt to be putting in looks like some kind of bottom here. We are seeing, let's see, we got two on the 4-hour chart. We have 2 hours left approximately, so we are seeing a 4-hour bar that may achieve what I look at for volume as far as putting in a bottom. So we'll see. What I want to see now, that would tell me that this move might, this pullback might be over, is that we break above this 19,180 level. And if we do that, then I think you may see something like this. It'll come up, it'll come back down like this, and then we want to break basically a trend line that's going to form here, and then we bust out through that. And if it's like last week, we're going to have another 10 to 20% move higher would not be unrealistic. And getting above 20,000 this week would not be unrealistic. So again, based on this current price action, it's to be determined. Right now the bears are in control for the short term. Bulls are in control in reality above 17,200. So it's a pullback unless that's breached. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and if you're new to trading, this is in our world, in the futures world, this is not even a pullback. This is just simple profit taking. And what Phil said, above 17.3, the bulls are still in control for short term, and you just have to if you're part of our room, we kind of help you with support and resistance, and whether you should get greedy or fearful. But for me, looking at it, and I'm in all Bitcoin right now, I'm not worried at all.
We got a paid question for Ripple, so let me get into that real quick. And Ripple, there we go. So Ripple's had a big spike up, definitely has put in a bottom. Let's look at the daily first. So daily, the big bear fib zone still looming above, but we do have a signal on the daily that's fired back at 2840. And so right now what I'm looking for on this move here would be a pullback. You have like a volume node here. So basically a pullback in this area, guys, of you want to call that 3200 basically. So this would be a spot, because also too you have to look at, I like to look at areas that it consolidated previously. So you had some consolidation in here, and usually I like to buy off of when, so I'd be looking in this area here to buy. So you'd be basically looking for a retrace here, and then boom, you would be looking to try and tag at least a measured move up to 6138. So there's that's a decent move higher. You'd be looking at potential swing. And now you got to be, you need to still be mindful of your stops, because we have seen the market where it kind of just pops and drops. and so we need to see a little more consistency out of that. But you're looking at over a double there on that swing setup. So, like I said, the signal already says go long, but typically the ideal spots would be these fib bull pullbacks. It's also not unheard of if you want to stagger some buys in here and try to dollar cost average somewhere in here. That way, if it does pull back, doesn't quite get down to this level, at least you're in it. And sometimes some really great trades end up like that. You don't get a full position, but you still take advantage of a 100% move. So just depends on your risk appetite for getting in a little earlier ahead of these critical technical levels. So that's my opinion on XMR. I think it's bullish setup right there. If you're already in it, stay long. I don't see any reason to get out here.
No, and maybe we should stay on all night, Phil. So the whole hour we've been on, Bitcoin has been going up.
No, well, you know, that's the Asian market though. And lately the way the Asian markets have worked. So you're talking about like the Nikkei, right? It's open right now. You got Korean exchanges that are open. We used to see buying kind of taper off right around now, 9 p.m. Eastern. And lately though, like I would say a week or two before the futures open, Asia was very active through the entire session, and then it just would pass the baton off to London. London opens, right now it's 9 p.m. Eastern. London opens at, you figure the Nikkei closes around 2 a.m. Eastern, and then the London markets open at 3 a.m. Eastern. And for some reason, a lot of Bitcoin buying, there are Bitcoin traded funds in Europe, and it seems like there's a lot of buying for some reason at 5 a.m. and beyond. So after a couple hours after the London market opens, and I'm not sure why that dynamic is, but that's just what it happens. So that's kind of like, I like to see around 8 p.m. Eastern what kind of price action we get. So you know, that was an hour ago, and look at this. That's this whole thing right here. This is Asia. Asia opened, and we basically saw a move of $680 or 3.7% up. So that's Asia waking up.
And coming from the legacy futures world, people would kill for that for a week.
Oh, 3%, 3 points, or even just $600 a contract. Like I was telling the guys, you know, in the video we did today about the futures, CBOE is more for the retail guy. But even then, now with prices being up near 20,000, you still have to have a pretty hefty amount. You basically have to have half that, just for round numbers. Actually, a little less than that. But you know, you have to have $9 grand, let's say, in your trading account just to trade one lot of the CBOE futures, and you have to have about $45,000 to trade the CME futures because they're 5 contracts big, so the equivalent of 5 Bitcoins. So that's the big boy contract. That's what everybody's been looking for, because that's the real big institutional instrument. And so still, you know, even though the CBOE came out, we're still looking to see really, like, let's see what a week gives us with the big futures now that they're out. So it'll be an interesting week this week.
So let's take one more question, Phil. We gotta wrap it up.
You know what? I misread that. Sorry. Somebody asked XMR Monero. I was looking at Ripple. So you got a free Ripple on analysis. Here, let me. Sorry guys. Let me do Monero. I apologize. All right. So Monero. XMR, let's look at it on Bittrex. I'm going to look at it in Bitcoin terms, and this will translate to dollar terms. So this is a daily. You know, it's it's been going sideways, right? So, I mean, if you look at it in terms of Bitcoin, it's just been going sideways. I mean, you did have one big spike up in August, and that fully retraced, and now we're just kind of back to levels that we were at back in April, more or less, even March. So it hasn't gone anywhere. Meanwhile, Bitcoin's been ripping higher all through that time frame. So that, you know, if you're in something like Monero, basically, guys, what we want to see at this point is some sort of move higher. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, so this thing's just moved sideways, hasn't really gone anywhere. Okay, so now you want to drill down into let me get into the right layout here. So XMR. Basically, you want to hold this trend line. But that being said, I want to see this thing start to gain some velocity. This fib target actually already played out. So there's not really a whole lot going on here. It's got to get above this bear fib zone of 0.029. Once it gets above that, bulls are back in control. But I'm not, right now I'm looking for stuff that moves. Like you saw Ripple. Ripple is very bullish. It moved. This isn't going anywhere for me. And if I'm not growing in terms of Bitcoin, I'm looking for something else that's moving. So we need to see some pretty aggressive price action. There's nothing wrong with waiting. If you guys are looking to get into something, there's nothing wrong with waiting for this thing to do a move out of this area first. But if it's just gonna be a slow grind, there's a lot better options out there to be in. So I'm just not impressed with the price action against Bitcoin. Max Chen, I'm thinking of buying the New Year special. There's 3 pre-recorded to learn about the technical analysis. Or are they all video calls? No, they're fully done videos. They're not video calls. So you get you'll have videos that you watch. They're not like a live stream on YouTube or anything like that. They're pre-recorded. James Brook, is it crashing now? Should we sell? We just kind of covered that. You can back up in the video, but no, we're not crashing. In fact, again, I'll just show you real quick. It's just a retrace. See, like if you look at it on a this is a 4-hour chart, perfectly normal within this price channel range. And as we were talking about, Asia's opened up and Asia's just kind of ripped us higher. See, this whole move up here, guys, is all Asia, and that's a $600 move. So just normal stuff. This isn't a crash. This looks dramatic on a 15-minute, but that's because it's a 15-minute. But you know, in the big picture, that's not a big deal. Verge, you can swing trade Verge, but you have to understand that, you know, a lot of these coins need to develop the tech still. Verge, I think is a swing play, but I'm not convinced that's a buy and hold. Can we expect LTC to rise more soon based on the money going into BTC? I think they're both going to rise. You'll probably see $1,000 Litecoin in 2018, but again, what's that going to do in terms of Bitcoin? Okay, so this is a Litecoin Bitcoin chart, and if it grows on the same pace as Bitcoin, it could go to $1,000 and not gain 1 penny against Bitcoin, or it could lose value against Bitcoin. But it's going to be a little difficult to say. I mean, you've got so much money that's waiting to flood into the Bitcoin space from institutional funds and Wall Street and things like that now, because of the derivative markets have opened up their hedging abilities. It's going to be harder and harder for the coins to move up in Bitcoin terms. As far as Litecoin, I mean, it's looking very bullish at this point in Bitcoin terms. So if Litecoin announces if there was a big Litecoin announcement, that would be probably a big factor in its ability to continue to move against Bitcoin. So right now, it did sell off in Bitcoin terms after it shot up here in an initial bump higher. Overall, it's kind of basically taken back control from the bears in Bitcoin terms. It's gotten above this level. So now you're going to be looking at, you know, another measured move higher, basically. I would probably take a look at something like this. So yes, it could move higher against Bitcoin. You'd be looking at the next swing up to be about 0.022 of Bitcoin. And right now we're at 0.0166. But the thing we got to keep in mind with Litecoin is a lot of times it's popped and it's dropped, and it's been in a very bearish market against Bitcoin, as have most of the alts. But now we're starting to see a change in behavior, so we'll see. Basically, all you can do is target the swing zones, and if it stops you out, it stops you out. As far as ETH, I think Litecoin has a better chance than Ethereum of rising against Bitcoin. I think Ethereum is going to need to show that its platform is going to scale. And right now, there's doubt on that. And again, everything has growing pains. Bitcoin has growing pains. So that'll be to be determined. But I think Litecoin has a better shot of growing in percentage terms against Bitcoin. But I think all of these are better played as swings. Better to find a nice technical entry, have a nice tight stop, and trail up your stop as price the coins increase in value against Bitcoin.
Yeah, and these are the kind of things we talk about in the trading room. So, if you really want to be an aggressive trader, the guys in the trading room are flipping back and forth, looking for opportunities to add to their Bitcoin stack by trading some of these moves like we just had in Litecoin and Ethereum, and some of the third tier coins too. So, there's always going to be opportunities to get in. We just look for the technical setups, and we buy them when we see them, and then we hop off when we think they've exhausted their moves. So,
what you're talking about there, okay, hang on. Power to the people. You're talking about, yeah, we came out of this basically this triangle, and yeah, that was a big consolidation move. But it's to be you're talking about price velocity. So will this double? Like Bitcoin could double in the next 1 to 2 months. That would require Ethereum going to 1,400. So that's kind of the game you're looking at. CryptoBug, ETH has to prove it can scale, but BTC doesn't. BTC is scaling. What you're talking about is transaction times. And basically, when you're looking at something that's a store of value versus something that's supposed to be a virtual computer for the world, the virtual computer for the world has to transact quickly. All right, so you're talking about two different animals. Bitcoin is scaling. People are buying Bitcoin without any problems. Bitcoin was by nature designed to have 10-minute blocks. So if you look back at some of the early postings from Satoshi Nakamoto, you'll see that he basically figured that you would basically have Bitcoin as a reserve settlement layer, and you would tie in payment channels to it. So that's where things like Lightning Network come into play. So when you say scale, you're talking about what's the medium that you're dealing with. If it's something that's supposed to be something that's transacting quickly and it's not able to, then it's having a problem scaling. If you're talking about Bitcoin and a store of value, scaling doesn't require fast transaction times if it's just a store of value. That being said, fees are pricey because of the fact that the mempool and all that stuff, and the price, you want to pay more to get into and have your transactions happen faster. That's fine, but you have to keep in mind SegWit's been enabled for 6 months, and you have places and exchanges like Coinbase that aren't doing lifting a finger. These are all the guys that were behind SegWit 2x, and if SegWit 2x had gone live, that would have broken the network. So these guys, they say, oh, we got to do something about the fees. That's now enabled, and they haven't lifted a finger in 6 months. That's kind of mystifying to me. So are they I'm not sure what's behind that, but scaling is a matter of what you're trying to accomplish and what the purpose of the particular token or coin is.
Yeah, hey, I want to swing back to the charts a little bit too, because I want to maybe give somebody a quick tutorial on trading volume profile. And now that we've seen the retrace being retraced again, is if you notice there was a big ledge at 17,730, and it happened to be the 50% retrace from last support to the high that came earlier today. And then you have another ledge, a higher volume ledge at 19,500, and in between that you have very low volume. And so what happens is this move that went up into the high moved up on very, very low volume. And a lot of times those areas, that low volume area where they call them, nips and ledges here, that those nips tend to attract the price. And if you notice, the price got down to the lowest volume area here. It basically tested the conviction of that trading area and was bought. And so now what we're looking to see here is, now if it climbs back over to 19.5, then it's ready to make another move to another set of highs. So I just want to point that out. That's how we look at volume profile, to kind of give us a sense of whether we think something is just profit taking or backing and filling, or there's true selling going on and we're going to go down to a different level of price support areas. So I just want to throw that out, Phil, in case people are interested.
Yep. CryptoBug, you can actually go into their Slack channel and just ask them straight up. They're all accessible. I don't know. I haven't asked them personally. Nicholas Toe, any views on Neo? Yeah, I like Neo a lot. And the reason why I like Neo a lot is because it's heavily exposed to China. If you've ever, looked into Neo, basically that's kind of viewed as the Chinese Ethereum. And so as such, I think what's going to happen is, as China always does, they're going to lift their current bans on things like ICOs, and I think Neo is going to erupt. There's just this is the kind of stuff that we're seeing now, where you start seeing these coins, they're just sitting there lying dormant, and all of a sudden they just explode. And I would say that if you got into Neo here, once you start breaking above this trend line and this bear fib area, that you could probably see one of those explosive moves higher. And I really do believe that's possible. You could just see it rocket up into here, into the bottom. Definitely looking for the bottom of this trend line to be tested again. So you're looking at more than a double there.
Good. Hey Phil, we ran over, so I want to kind of end it here, and so that, you have the rest of your day, and then I can get on with my evening. Really appreciate everybody's time here tonight, and the next 2 weeks, obviously it's going to be Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. We may change to Saturday, or we may take those 2 weekends off. Just stand by and watch our videos during the week, and we'll put announcements out. If we're going to do anything over the next 2 weeks, or take a break from the Bob and Phil show till 2018. So anyway, thank you so much for your time, and Phil, thank you so much for all your wisdom on the cryptos.
I gotta take this paid one on Dash. Dash, here, let's go back to the charts real quick. Dash, I'm gonna look at it in Bitcoin because that's what it needs to gain against. All right, let's zoom out. Let's see what time. Let's look at the daily. Always look at the big time frames. So again, since March, April, what's Dash done in Bitcoin terms? Not a whole lot. So this is the same. Okay, so interestingly, we got two different payment coins, Monero and Dash, and they're not going anywhere really. I mean, if you're looking for basically spots that you want to go long, you want to see the technicals on the daily. So I want to see, real quick, I want to see this roll over and then get back down to this area, and then I'd be looking at something like, and all you'd be expecting is a move in this range here, right? So this thing's basically just established kind of this price channel range here of this between here and this here. That's a terrible line. Here and here, okay? So if we get another dip, let's say on the daily, comes down here, yeah, you could buy here, and you're hoping that you're going to see somewhere up in here. And if you did that, then yeah, you could be looking at a gain of, let's just say something like, could you see 70% move from buying buying a move like that? Yeah, I guess you could, yeah. But again, overall, it's interesting to see these payment coins not really gaining overall. But you do have some price. That's why I said it's a swing market. So, but this is the kind of stuff we look at, and when I see an opportunity like that, then that's what we do in the room, and on Twitter we send out those signals. But that you requested a paid review on that, so yeah, looking for, so essentially what you're looking for, to be clear, you're going to be looking for down in this 4 area. That should coincide with this technical winding back up. And then you're going to look for something up in this area that coincides kind of with this price channel. So hope that makes sense. Hope that helps. We did cover Stellar when this. You can go back in the stream and we went over that. So if that's it, guys, like Bob said, we got to run, but we'll have some videos out for tomorrow, and we'll be taking a look at the week ahead. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.